All right, friend, it's T-Man. And I've watched this video a few days ago, and I figured, you know what? I should do a reaction video to it because it's quite interesting. So, you've probably never come across this guy or his channel, Official Awe. In this video says, everything they taught you in school was a lie. Yeah, people are already waking up to that, and they're starting to they're starting to unravel that. So yeah.
I'm going to say something right now that might make you think I'm crazy, but just stick with me. The man who pioneered the modern education system in America was a notorious spy and arms dealer for our greatest ally, and he also happened to be the father-in-law of Jack. Oh, and he also went missing in a mysterious yacht accident, whatever that is. By the time you're done watching this video, you'll know that not only am I not the crazy one, you yourself might leave with your reality completely shattered, and I'm not exaggerating. And I don't mean to overhype this video, I hope you guys can be the judge of how it ends up, but I personally think that this might be the most important and most revealing video I've ever made on this channel. Because there's a lot, trust me. Because what happens if you realize that everything they taught you in school from a young age might have all been built upon lies and deception?
Well, it has to be because that's how they enslave you. I've already known this for a long time. This is nothing new, man. Okay.
You can build a Shopify business for drop shipping.
Chapter
If you're
one.
my age and you went to school in America, I guarantee that you recognize and remember these books, and specifically this company, McGraw-Hill.
Oh yeah, I remember them all right. And that educational stuff is used in Canada just the same, all through North America here. Okay.
It's one of the biggest educational publishers in this entire country, the United States, and one of the biggest in the world, actually. And they actually own almost a quarter of the entire market share of the American education system. They're literally everywhere. You'll see their logo plastered in every corner of the classroom.
It's a business.
Not only in textbooks, but also like online programs, standardized exams. Everything even remotely related to the educational business likely has McGraw-Hill involved in some way. Trying to find a classroom without McGraw-Hill is almost like trying to find a lake without fish in it. Nearly impossible. And that's why, again, anyone around my age in America who went to school, so basically everyone, I guarantee will tell you that they've not only seen, but also read from these textbooks as they were growing up. Feel free to leave a comment, by the way, if you'd like to confirm that. But moral of the story is that McGraw-Hill, it was truly ubiquitous. It was everywhere within American education. It's just everywhere. There's no other way around it. Now, do you know who owns McGraw-Hill? Who exactly has been in charge of the way our textbooks are written and published in the modern education system of the United States? Well, if you somehow took the totally wild and random guess that Greatest Ally might be involved in some way, if you know what I mean, you would actually be correct in this case.
I had that feeling, I suspected.
And specifically, I'm going to go in detail talking about this individual who might as well be the most interesting man in the world, possibly one of the most dangerous people to exist in modern history. This is a man by the name of Robert Maxwell. Some of you might know who he is, but if you don't, stay with me. Robert Maxwell was based out of Britain in the late 1900s, and he was a politician and media tycoon. He actually originally owned the textbook publishing company Macmillan, which you might have also seen before because they're also a big player in the educational industry, not only in Britain, but also in the US. I've seen their books as well, and so have you probably. In 1989,
Yeah.
Robert Maxwell entered a joint venture where he combined his Macmillan with this other, even bigger company, McGraw-Hill, and together they formed Macmillan McGraw-Hill, a giant conglomerate and almost like a mini monopoly over the American education system. Again, I'll remind you that literally everyone who has set foot in an American public school has read a McGraw-Hill textbook before, and this individual, Robert Maxwell, had a huge chunk of ownership over that specific company. Now, do you know who Robert Maxwell is? Does the name Maxwell ring a bell, perhaps, if you've been into politics and even dabbled in the world of
Yeah, it's part of the Epstein ring.
conspiracies, even though most conspiracies are true these days? Robert Maxwell is the father of the notorious Ghislaine Maxwell, the partner of the notorious Jeffrey fucking Epstein. What does that mean? Well, in simplest terms, the person that published the textbooks that we learned from during our most formative childhood years in school was functionally Jeffrey Epstein's father-in-law. I repeat, the person that published the textbooks that either you read or that your child is currently reading in school was Jeffrey Epstein's father-in-law. I don't even know how to overstate it. This is the kind of stuff that makes you question your entire reality. This is genuinely insane. Like, just how's everything tied back to Epstein in some way? Like, another thing, did you know that Jeffrey Epstein actually
They already know that because they've been talking about it everywhere. Even Iran is talking about it. Everybody is. They know it's all connected. That's why they keep mentioning his name.
won a Powerball lottery too?
Yep,
But this is actually just
I
the
remember that. He won the Powerball lottery, I think, while he was in jail. Which is more, it's really crazy.
tip of the iceberg. There's so much more to get to, and it'll blow your mind even more if it hasn't already.
Yep.
Aside from just being the father of Ghislaine Maxwell and being a media tycoon and politician in the UK who had influence over the entire Western world, basically, do you know who he also was within his double life? First of all, what if I told you that Robert Maxwell is actually not even his real name? He changed it to that later on in life for whatever reason. You can speculate for yourself.
He's a spy.
But the real name that he was born with was... Hey everyone, hope you're enjoying the video. If you didn't know, I have a full bonus show over on Patreon that's actually a bit different from this channel. I drop videos on there every single week, specifically to talk about things that I can't really talk about on here. I'm sure you guys understand that there are so many more things I want to say, but there are some things that you just can't say on a mainstream platform like this. But on there, I'm completely unfiltered, completely uncensored, completely off script, and I'll be reacting to everything going on in the world and covering some much deeper and much more controversial topics. So I think it's something that you guys would really enjoy. You might even like it more than
I saw his Charlie Kirk thing. Who killed Charlie Kirk? That was really good too. Shit, man. That was a great video.
this main channel. It's $5 a month and you'll get access to the full weekly show. Link is in the description and pinned comment. And shout out to everyone who's already on Patreon and everyone who's a channel member as well. Love and appreciate you guys.
Why do I love Core Beauty? Because it's more than just makeup.
The real name that he was born with was Jean Ludwig Hayman Benjamin Hoch. I don't know if I'm pronouncing it correct, but I wonder if you already know what kind of name that sounds like. Benjamin. Anyways, within the United Kingdom, the most powerful country in Europe and having a huge influence on the entirety of Western civilization, Maxwell had a tremendous amount of influence over the government, the media, and the education system. If you think this is an exaggeration, by the way, this is literally the most basic open source information out there right in front of you for anyone who's curious enough to just look on Wikipedia. You don't even have to dig deep for these things. You just have to ask questions. But anyways, he served 6 years in the British government as a member of parliament. He had a huge amount of control over the media, as he literally owned the British Printing Corporation itself and other publications such as the Daily Mirror. And of course, he was a mogul who rolled over a lot of the education system too, through his influence with McGraw-Hill, a huge conglomerate that was almost a mini monopoly. But throughout this whole time, while nominally representing the country of Britain, do you know what other specific certain small country in the Middle East that he had very deep and very suspicious ties to?
This is going to be interesting.
Take a wild guess. There's no possible way that you'll ever guess what country I'm talking about. Robert Maxwell, the man in charge of educational publishing in America, including all the history textbooks, by the way, was literally a spy for Greatest Ally. And by the way, he wasn't even like your average normie spy. This guy was on some all-time shit and might have been one of the best spies or agents in history. Like one of the GOATs, like the Tom Brady of spying, basically. Yes, the same guy who basically owned our education system. And again, all of this sounds crazy, I'm sure, but just a reminder, and as you'll continue to see, this is not just me saying this stuff. It's not a conspiracy theory either. Every single thing I say can all be found directly through Wikipedia. I'll even just put it up on the screen for you to see. It's like they're not even trying to hide this stuff from us anymore. They just think we're too distracted or too powerless to do anything. So they're fine with putting this information right in front of us. But yeah, Robert Maxwell, like I said, was not just your average spy here and there. He was deeply embedded within the government and intelligence matrix of Greatest Ally ever since that nation's founding, actually, since the very beginning of it all. In the year of 1948, the same year that Israel became a nation, Maxwell was part of a covert operation to smuggle aircraft parts into that country. In other words, he was basically a high-level military arms dealer, a weapons dealer. He has a long history and resume of covertly sending weapons and military equipment to Greatest Ally. Even continued doing this into his later years in the 1980s. But that's just the start, because later on, he actually did something even crazier than that, believe it or not. And let's just read straight from the Wikipedia page for you to see all for yourself. Maxwell is alleged to have distributed a bugged version of a software called PROMIS to a plethora of national governments and global financial institutions that enabled mass spying by the government of Israel. Again, that enabled mass spying by the government of Greatest Ally, Strongest Ally, Closest Ally. Now, if that is not already crazy enough, the fact that this guy literally helped Greatest Ally spy on like every country in the world, let me tell you this. Do you remember all the talk we've had about New Mexico and the recent missing, disappearing scientists from
Yeah, that's quite interesting. I wonder why they're disappearing.
there? Well, what do you know?
Yeah.
Robert Maxwell had a connection to this as well.
Oh my God.
Maxwell was allegedly able to sell the bugged Israeli version of the PROMIS software to Sandia National Laboratory in New Mexico and Los Alamos National Laboratory, also in New Mexico, two of the most important nuclear research and national security facilities in the United States. So just in a basic sense, putting two and two together, the places that these recent missing scientists disappeared from at one point in time were literally spied on by Greatest Ally. They had spyware installed at those facilities. And do they have it still to this day? We don't know. And now where this gets even crazier,
Probably.
I shit you not, did you know that Robert Maxwell himself was once involved in an operation to capture a nuclear scientist? Like, this kind of stuff is so insane that if you just told me without me looking it up, I wouldn't even believe it.
I think I heard about that before, yeah.
But look, it's the Mordecai Vanunu case. The whole thing is actually totally insane, and I don't have time to get into all the details around that story. But basically, Vanunu was an Israeli nuclear scientist who worked on that country's nuclear program and leaked the information to the world that our greatest ally had developed nuclear weapons covertly while having lied about it and never having signed on to any nuclear non-proliferation treaties. He was the guy who, again, was a nuclear scientist and he leaked this information. A lot of people considered him a hero or a whistleblower. And what do you know? Robert Maxwell was involved in the operation of identifying and ultimately tracking him down. In fact, they actually got him in a foreign country. I believe they took him from Italy and dragged him all the way back to, that country. And I've heard the theory about the recent missing scientists in America and about how foreign agents might be involved in that. Well, now you know that there is precedent of this exact thing happening.
You always wanted somebody like Morgan.
Anyways, this is, again, just all the more insane once you put it in the context that this, Maxwell, is the same man who published all of the educational textbooks that we learned from growing up in school, including the history and social studies textbooks, which obviously will have a huge impact on the way that we end up seeing the world once we grow up. The same guy who owned like a mini monopoly over modern American education was an arms dealer who sold weapons to Greatest Ally, installed Greatest Ally's spying software on foreign governments all across the world, and helped Greatest Ally capture a nuclear scientist. And who knows how many other people, by the way. There are tons of important people, including scientists who go missing every year. Is it out of the realm of possibility to say that Maxwell and Greatest Ally could be behind some of those cases when they're literally documented to have done this before? If I were to sum it up, he was basically Greatest Ally's greatest ally. He did literally everything he possibly could in every area of society, and he is the one who wrote our educational textbooks in America. Is it just me, or is it hard to look at reality in the same way at this point? Now here's where the story, it gets even more interesting. McGraw-Hill is no longer owned by
It's a great story.
Robert Maxwell anymore because Robert Maxwell actually vanished. He disappeared and supposedly died in a bizarre yacht accident where he was, doing this. I'm gonna put that on the screen. But the story doesn't end there, and it just gets even more coincidental, let's just put it that way. So you might be asking, who took over the legacy of Robert Maxwell, Greatest Ally's greatest ally, and who owns McGraw-Hill in the modern day, in 2026? Well, let's look at some of the recent history of this company. In 2013, McGraw-Hill was acquired by private equity firm Apollo Global Management, just one of the most powerful companies in the entire world, and it's on the S&P 500. Now, do you know who the CEO of Apollo is? It's a man by the name of Mark Rowan. Who's Mark Rowan? Obviously, we can do an early life check. You'll see what you need to see there. But it's not only the fact that this guy is of a particular ethnicity, by the way. There are plenty of people who are also of that ethnicity, but they're genuinely great and amazing people. I want to say that. But this guy specifically is deeply involved in Israeli politics itself, even though he's technically an American. I think he has
They all are, just like Facebook and everybody else, dude. Bill Gates, you name it.
dual citizenship, not 100% sure about that.
Yeah.
And he is the guy who was literally appointed to rule over Gaza. Again, this same guy who owns Apollo Global Management, which bought up McGraw-Hill, the educational company, was appointed by the government to essentially rule over Gaza and help oversee the quote-unquote reconstruction process. This same guy who owns McGraw-Hill in the modern day, just like Robert Maxwell, also just so happens to be an agent or operative on behalf of Greatest Ally, and he owns the American education system. And finally, you want to know the last cherry on top, the icing on the cake, whatever the fuck you want to call it? Just
Sure.
recently, Apollo Global Management actually gave up control of McGraw-Hill and they sold it to another company. It's called Platinum Equity, and it's also one of the biggest firms in the industry in the world. And then you look up who the CEO of Platinum Equity is. It's a man by the name of Tom Gores. Go on his Wikipedia. And do I even have to say it at this point? Within the first sentence. When it comes to the implications of all this, you can be the judge for yourself. You can speculate however you want. But at the very least, based on the facts that I've presented and are very easily searchable for yourself too, we've established that some of the key figures behind the educational publishing industry in America have very sketchy backgrounds and coincidental ties to Greatest Ally. And I do want to say for the record, though, that that doesn't necessarily mean that everything they taught us from those textbooks was factually wrong. Like it doesn't mean that math textbooks published by McGraw-Hill are wrong for saying that 2 times 2 is 4, or that science textbooks are wrong for saying the mitochondria is the powerhouse of the cell. But I think it's reasonable to say that when it comes to more subjective areas of study, like history and social studies, it does undeniably call into question some of the narratives we were taught to believe ever since a young age. Again, it doesn't automatically mean that everything was wrong, but it does raise the real possibility and concern that certain teachings and certain beliefs we were inculcated with during our formative years of childhood may have been framed in certain ways for certain ends, aka, dare I say, not fully neutral and objective and possibly having some kind of semblance of an agenda. There's something there for sure. And again, you can be the judge of that. You can speculate for yourself. Feel free to leave your ideas in the comments. But if anything, I not only hope that you learned something new from this video, but I hope that it also inspires you to seek out truth for yourself instead of relying on any authority figures or institutions to trust, like the education system even. And this is coming from me, by the way, if you know my story. I've been through this education system. I've seen it firsthand myself. Not to brag, but I went to what was ranked as the #1 public magnet high school in the country at the time. I studied at the University of Michigan, which is arguably the best public college in the country, and I graduated with a degree in applied physics. I've been in this world. I've made it to the top of it. And I've seen through my own experiences and now my
I'm sure he has. That's why he's bringing up this topic.
own research that the education system in this country in many ways is useful, but is also deeply flawed and deeply politicized in what I believe is a bizarre way. And looking deeper, as we've just done in this video, it's no surprise to see that the education system, but also just any authority figures and institutions in general, may be deeply stained. But again, just to reiterate, it's so important, especially in
I believe that for sure.
this day and age, to seek out truth for yourself. Because even on a deeper philosophical and psychological level, it's what we were born to do. We as humans were born with observational skills and the ability to critically think and logically reason, and the ability to discern and come up with our own conclusions, instead of placing blind trust in what Big Brother tells us. So why not use that innate skill to the best of our abilities? That's part of becoming the best versions of ourselves. And it's,
Smart advice.
of course, especially important right now, because we are living in the age of deception. So when in doubt, it's important.
Oh, dude, we've been living in the age of deception for like a really, really, really long time. Probably, I don't know, 2,000 years of it.
Important to trust yourself and seek out information on your own.
Not longer.
And along that journey, you might just so happen to find some really interesting stuff and
Yeah.
many kooky coincidences.
Well, it's nothing new for me. I figured this already a long time ago.
Am I being a dick, or
This is an interesting video, man. Tell me what you think about that. Like, subscribe, support the channel. I'm out of here.
is there something wrong with the way she's behaving after her husband was publicly on camera in front of millions of people? And she has 2 kids to take care of at home at this very moment that she's standing on the stage with a podium that says President of the United States. What? Like, where are the kids? Are they with a nanny or something? Welcome. Look at this crowd. Look at how happy she is. Look at how she can't contain her laughter. She's bursting with excitement. She literally looks like a kid in a candy shop right now. She smiles so hard that she even got her gun showing. That's crazy. Look at how happy she is. And I'm not saying like people shouldn't be happy. Of course you should. But shouldn't there be some level of reverence to not only your dead husband who was brutal, but also to the fact that you have 2 kids at home that should be taken care of?
Yep, that's right. I'll see you in the next video, man. Ciao, friends. Tell me what you think about that.